Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Town of Cicero Planning Board meeting. My name is Mark Marzullo. Just sit tight with us for a second. We're waiting for two members, it looks like. One member. It was 1 second.
Mark,
Yes,
I sent Snyder a text to ask him if he needed help.
he's here.
Oh, he's here? He's on there? Okay, good.
He might still need help, but
I gotta put my shoes on, get over there.
Wait,
darn it. I
my
don't
wife's got to run over to his house and help him.
think- He's on, but he's muted. I'm going to call Mr. Abbey. 1 second.
Can you hear me, Snyder?
Can you hear me?
What?
Who's on first?
Snyder, can you hear me? You're on mute.
I can hear you.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
I can, yeah. It said mute though on the screen. But I can hear you.
There's Chuck.
I'm getting almost not terrible at this electronic stuff. All right, so again, my name is Mark Marzullo. I'm the chairman of the planning board. Welcome everybody to the planning board meeting. We're going to start with attendance of the team on the planning board, starting with the members. Mr. Rosito,
Present.
Mr. Abbey,
Here.
welcome. Mr. Snyder,
Present.
Mr. Bloss,
Here.
Mr. Maurizio. Here. Our planning board clerk, Cindy Chamberlain.
Here.
Director of Codes Enforcement, Steve Procopio.
Present.
Planning Board Engineer, Mark Parrish.
Here.
Planning Board Attorney, Neil Germain.
Here.
Town Board Member and Liaison to the Planning Board, Nancy White.
Here.
Judy, I don't think is with us. And that will conclude that. Mr. Rosito, you lead us off in the pledge, please.
Yes. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance.
to the flag of the United States of
United States
America,
of America.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bill. The planning board will accept public comment on any active application currently before the board. Due to the fact that this meeting is being conducted virtually, we are now accepting comments live, but nobody has signed up, so that won't happen this evening. You can also submit your comments in writing, and the instructions for either of those you'll find on our agenda, and that's on the town website. Next item is the approval of the minutes from the March 17th meeting. Everybody's had a chance to review. Any questions, comments? Do we have a motion for approval?
Move that be approved as printed.
Moved by Mr. Snyder. Do we have a second?
Second,
Second,
Who was that first? Mr. Bloss?
yes.
Second by Mr. Bloss. Mr. Rosito?
yes.
Mr. Abbey?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Bloss?
Yes.
And I vote yes, minutes have been approved. Thank you. And then first agenda item is for the Cicero Volunteer Fire Department. This is for a proposed electronic message board at their fire station at 6109 State Route 31. Is there a representative from the fire department here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. John Barrett from Cicero Fire, one of the past chiefs, current president. You guys should have all the documentation. I stopped and worked with Steve over at the codes office. We're looking to replace the outdated, if you want to call it, signs, where we have to put up the sign letters itself with the electronic sign that I provided the drawings with, in the same location of where it is at Station 2.
John, excuse me 1 second. Mark, can you get that up on the screen for us, please?
Yeah, you give me a second here.
Take your time.
I have a question while you're doing that.
Go ahead, sir.
What happened to the word volunteer?
Originally, we were going to try to incorporate that into the signage itself. However, it just didn't kind of work out with the spacing and the amount of lettering we have. It would be kind of too small.
And I thought that was kind of important, and it's the way it's been from the beginning, as far as I know.
Good question.
All right, so this is the sign, I guess. I guess the site plans if you'd like me to.
We're not seeing it, Mark. Mike, you gave him permission?
Let's see.
Here it comes. Got it.
No, okay.
Perfect. So that's a description of the sign, a visual of the sign.
Yep.
Love the eagle. Anybody got questions on this portion of it?
No, I don't.
Yes. I'm confused on the roads here. When we're looking at 31, the road that goes north on that, they got Damien Drive.
Mark, can you get the site plan up, please?
Right.
So Damon Drive is on the north.
Yeah, but is that Route 11?
No,
No, this is 31, the 31 Fire Department.
Be the one over by Thompson Road.
Yes.
yeah.
Oh,
that's
wait,
where Damien should
okay.
be.
Excuse me. I was thinking of the fire barn on Route 11 and 31. Now I realize Damien Drive, that's the fire barn. I apologize. On Route 31.
No worries. Mark, can you point out where the sign existing one is?
Mark, it's in that plan
Oh,
has
right
a
here.
darker, there you go, you found it.
Right there.
Okay.
for an interval of less than 15 seconds. There will be no flashing or oscillating or scrolling of messages. The sign may be internally but not externally lit.
Do we have a motion? Somebody like to make that a motion? I'll make it a motion. Do we have a second?
Second by Snyder.
Mr. Aceto,
Yes.
Mr. Abbey,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Bloss,
Yes.
and I vote yes. John, you're all set.
Just a quick question on, Chuck brought up, if we were to redesign that top part and just include volunteer on,
Going to make a seeker determination, and then I would anticipate a recommendation to the town board on zone change. The board has all received the part 2 that was completed by Mr. Jermaine. Are there any?
Matter has been determined to be a type 1 action, and the applicant has completed a full environmental impact form. This board, in accordance with its role as lead agency, has completed an investigation as to whether or not the proposed zone change may have a significant adverse impact on the environment as defined by seeker, and has been presented with and reviewed the proposed findings as set forth in part 2. At this point, you would move for the adoption of a resolution approving the adoption of the findings as set forth under part 2 of the full environmental assessment form, identification of potential impacts as presented to the board. Said part 2 findings as presented shall be included in the record of this proceeding, and the town clerk of the.
So now our objective is to declare either a positive or a negative deck on this.
That's correct.
Those are our only 2 options. We can't do a conditional.
Yeah, conditional would be for like a unlisted action. But in a case such as this, you would be making a motion for either a negative declaration, which would allow the applicant to proceed as there would be no significant impact, or a positive declaration, which would state that there is a significant impact, that motion.
I'll go through again for questions, Mr. Aceto. Questions or comments?
Not at the moment.
Mr. Abbey,
I'm all set.
if we do a positive declaration, do we need to specify the cause for that?
Otherwise, I will infer based on the part 2 application.
Mr. Snyder, would you like to elaborate?
Yes, my positive declaration is based on the traffic study that was presented and additional information that Mr. Bloss has done personally, and my rereading of the traffic study at least 3 times.
And that the intersection along 31 and Lakeshore Road was not acceptable to them? Are you right with adding that to it?
Right, and that's based on yet the traffic study is taking about 45% of the traffic and running them through neighborhood streets. So if we wanted to do a worst case scenario, the numbers would look a lot worse than they do right now.
Okay. So we have a motion for a positive declaration. Do we have a second?
No, I will form that motion for you. And
I'm
then
sorry.
That's okay. This is a resolution pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act in the matter of the application known as Leslie Ann Associates, Inc., seeking a recommendation to the town board for a change of zone from agricultural to R12 on approximately 65 acres of land located on Lakeshore Road, also designated as tax map number 87-121.2. Whereas pursuant to Article 8 of the New York State Environmental Conservation Law as amended and regulations of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and whereas the board, with its input from its engineer experts as consultants on behalf of the applicant, email provided by Elizabeth Parmalee, directs a positive declaration to be issued with respect to the action, and the town clerk, the resolution shall take effective immediately. Finally, as part of the resolution, the planning board specifically finds that the proposed project may have significant negative impact on traffic, which we believe cannot be remediated. Moreover, delays occur on Lakeshore Road / Route 31 at the intersection as a result of the proposed project, and those delays cannot be mitigated.
Form of a motion.
Yeah, as a motion.
We have a second.
Property located along Lakeshore Road and also designated as stat max number 87-121.2. In recommending against the zone changes, planning board notes that, among other things, significant traffic concerns in the area that would be severely worsened by this project. Among the other concerns, the New York State Department of Transportation Regional Traffic Engineer provided a written summary of the findings dated February 6, 2021. That summary stated, "We have completed our review of the TIS for the Horner Farmstead project and do not support the additional delays that will occur on Lakeshore /31 intersection. Accordingly, the planning board does not recommend the requested zone change."
Form of a motion, Don Snyder.
Do we have a second? Then I'm open for discussion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bloss. Mr. Rosito, any questions or comments?
No, thanks.
Mr. Abbey,
No, I'll say.
Mr. Snyder,
No, I'm good to go now.
Mr. Bloss, have you got anything to say?
Yes, I do. I thank you for the opportunity. I did a study. I started on April 6, 2021, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Location, Lakeshore Road and Route 31. Total count between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. of vehicles going by that intersection is 1,135 vehicles. Okay, 6 a.m. to 7, 267, 7 a.m. to 8, 490, 8 to 9 a.m. is 378. The reason I give you these times is 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., obviously with 490 vehicles, that would be the peak time for our traffic. In the process of doing my numbers, I did not make an allowance for any vehicles from the Horner development of 122 homes. I did not make an allowance for Trey J's 248 apartments. I went back to the people that did the study and looked at their numbers and everything, and they based their numbers on 7:30 to 8:30. My car count between 7:30 and 8:30 is 470 vehicles. That far exceeds what the other study did. And the other thing, that the safety factor, more than a few cars during this count would come up to the intersection of Lakeshore and 31. And if there would, there'd be 5 or 6 cars backed up, and the first car would see an opening on Route 31, would pull out. The rest of them, if they thought there was half a chance, went right through the stop sign and onto 31. And because of that's caused by the high traffic area on Route 31. These are not estimates. These are actual car counts. The next study I would have done would be cars going east on Lakeshore Road. And the reason for that would be so that we could develop how many second interval between cars or vehicles. So if an individual was pulling out of a development or any of the side streets or backing out of their driveway or whatever, but time didn't permit, but it doesn't look good at all. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Don. So we have a motion and a second on a recommendation of the town board. Mr. Rosito,
Yes.
Mr. Abbey,
I have to say no.
Mr. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Bloss,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That concludes this agenda item. Next item is for the Brewerton Ace Hardware for the property at 9655 Brewerton Road, Pros Hardware Store. Tim is representing the applicant. Tim, are you with us? You look dark.
Just give me 1 second. We're shuffling around over here.
There you are. Thank you, Michael.
Romans, we're back again for the Ace Hardware project. Would you like me to share my screen here?
Yes, please.
Share. Can everybody see this here?
Got it.
Okay. So After the previous meeting, we had a couple of comments from the board in parking area in front of the dumpster enclosure over here in the back so that the dump trucks can get through there without any worries about people parking in the way. We changed the location of the changes we did. We did talk to the state DOT about the proposed sidewalk out front. So one thing that I sent them 2 options and the existing curb was, okay. I sent them that option of putting the sidewalk in here. The reason I sent them that option is because right now where we have the sidewalk proposed in this plan, it goes through the private property here. So the applicant's private property has an 8-foot jog here and it cuts out here and comes around. So I knew that would be an issue to have to deal with the state DOT. So at first I sent them one out here in the outside of the private property so we wouldn't have to deal with that problem with this option. However, the problem that we're going to run into if this is where the sidewalk goes is we're going to have to dedicate this at DOT. So even if we were to say approve this, we wouldn't even be able to possibly start construction on the concrete walk out front until a year after for roughly a year, because we'd have to give this property to the state prior to any type of construction. So that was the applicant and my only concern is if like a year from now, when we go to start doing this, we're just wondering at that time, could we relook at the time frame for doing all those proposals in this area? Because I don't think it makes a ton. The plan is to start this construction work, within a reasonable amount of time. One other change I didn't mention that I added the details for the retaining wall and the wall out front. The original plan that we sent in last week had a different detail in here for the wall that's running along Brewerton Road. It was brought up to us that the original wall didn't have these interlocks down through the wall courses, and it possibly wouldn't be structural enough to stand up to like plowing and that kind of thing. So our applicant talked to Northern Nurseries and explained the situation, and this is the detail that they kind of suggested or came up with these interlocking reinforcements inside the blocks. They said it would be, strong enough to withhold that type of wall at the existing ramp. I believe, finally, we did get approvals on Monday night, specifically for the two parking spaces down to 49 after we redesigned that we show on site. So that's been cleaned up as well. I believe that answers or addresses all the changes to the map at this point. Does the board have any questions for us?
We'll open it to questions. Mr. Rosito?
The sidewalk, either way, however it ends up going, will it meet the hamlet's restrictions that it falls in that little gray area, so to speak? Does that meet what they want?
As far as, I guess it's a sidewalk. There was a proposed sidewalk. I'll pull
Regulations, and that, if I'm not mistaken, there was a wooden, like a post fence in there. Okay.
Mr. Abbey?
Village of Brewerton's and use a nice hardware store and a nice update for that corner.
Mr. Snyder?
For the loading dock in the back is fantastic, super. I really appreciate the way you've taken that by the hand. I don't have a problem with the sidewalk. I mean, if there's some way that we can word the approval that is comfortable to Neil and to Steve, then I have no problem with the sidewalk either. So good job.
Thank you, Don. Mr. Bloss?
I don't have any issues. I think it should be good to go. I like what they're doing in the village, and I'm all for it.
Thank you. Mr. Maurizio?
I really like this project, so best of luck to you, Jeff.
Thank you. Michael? Mr. Procopio?
I'm all set. If there's any question regarding the sidewalk and giving it a fashion or approval to give them time to do that, I'm fine with that.
Great.
Mr. Parrish?
Yeah, I did send out a letter on this just as the meeting started. I thought I'd sent it out previously, but I hadn't. But I think the board between the board and Tim have really touched on any of the outstanding issues that were noted in there. So yeah, I'm good with it, and I would also be supportive of somehow fashioning an approval that would one, give the applicant time to negotiate with the state DOT to dedicate the land to them that's needed for the sidewalk construction. And once that is completed, to revisit with the town the schedule potentially for the town under state undertaking those improvements, and eliminating that from the project if it's something that seems to be imminent.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Jermaine?
I'm all set.
Excuse me, Mark.
Yes.
Judy Boyke.
Hi, Judy, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm off site, so I have no face here. I have a concern because the proposal for the finishing of Route 11 went to the DOT because it was required, but we did not totally approve that. It was a proposed. So I just wanted to make note of that, if you don't mind. It was necessary for us to propose something because of something that's going on with the Burton revitalization, but we had not finalized that plan. It was a proposal only.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that affect this, Judy?
Probably not, but again, I haven't had a chance to really look at the whole thing because we only had a real small sketch. But it makes sense because the Burton Bridge repair is also going to fall right in line with this whole operation anyway, and it's going to disrupt I believe, the whole Route 11 for probably almost up to the intersection by Bartel. So anyway, but I just thought I'd just put that in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rosito, would you do the standard seeker, please?
Yes, I propose a standard seeker, and that's a form of motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Who was that?
Bloss.
Mr. Bloss. Seconded by Mr. Bloss. Mr. Rosito?
Yes.
Mr. Abbey?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Bloss?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Seeker passes. Neil, would you propose a motion for approval, please?
Yes, you're going to move for the adoption of resolution approving the application known as Just Parzik Brewerton Ace Hardware, 9655 Brewerton Road. Proposed hardware store. This approval is strictly conditioned on the following: one, the color schemes, renderings, and or elevations as presented by the applicant to the planning board in regard to this application shall be incorporated by reference into this site plan and the board's approval thereof. Accordingly, the actual project must substantially conform to the items as presented herein. Two, the board notes that the applicant has explained that we'll have to negotiate a dedication of the sidewalk area with the DOT, which may take additional time before constructing the sidewalk. The town will revisit the sidewalk issue with the applicant should the state aid in said improvements.
Would somebody like to make that as a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
Motion by Mr. Rosito. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bloss. Mr. Rosito?
Yes.
Mr. Abbey?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Bloss?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Nice job, gentlemen. Good luck with it.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Neil, before we move on to the next item, Mike and I have been chatting a little bit. There's somebody in the portal that would like to speak. I made a rule that they needed to sign up the day before the meeting to speak. So, I'm torn a little bit whether or not we want to stick to our rules, which we probably should, or don't want to keep somebody from speaking either. So,
It's really your judgment call.
Mike, are they still with us? Michael? Are you looking?
If there's someone interested, I'd let them speak.
It would be kind of interesting just to see if this works because we haven't done it before.
Yep.
Yeah, but I'd also like to follow the procedures too. But I agree, we should let them speak. So Mike, if they want to speak,
Yeah, I can, let's see if we can let
I
them.
want to be
in.
able to do this at the beginning of the meeting too. That's why I made that rule.
I am curious though, Mike, are you able to cut them off?
Yeah,
Okay,
Um,
if need be.
Good point.
David, are you there?
David, you're on mute if you're here. Now we'll hear you. David, good evening.
Are you speaking to David Valenti?
Yes.
There was nothing that I needed to say. I have representation here for this meeting tonight. This is for the Bluff project.
Oh, okay.
Okay, David, thank you.
Okay,
That takes care, it takes care of that as we move along and learn at the same time.
okay.
So the next item on the agenda is the CNY home improvement for the property at 7793 Brewerton Road. LJR Engineering, Alex is representing the applicant. Alex,
Sure. Good evening, everybody.
welcome back.
Thank you. I'm here tonight. I believe Ron Dumond's also on tonight. Ron, can you hear me?
Yes, I am. Hello, everybody.
I'm representing Ron Dumond. He's owner of CNY Home Improvements. And if I could share my screen here. We were before you back in February. Mr. Dumond owns a roughly 1 acre site very near the intersection of Brewerton Road and Business Ave on the west side of Brewerton Road. As part of this application, Mr. Dumond would like to create a roughly an 8,800 square foot warehouse expansion to his existing showroom facility. He operates a bath and kitchen remodeling business. He currently has warehousing services off-site, and he would like to relocate and construct his own storage to support his business. Since last meeting, we were asked to prepare and provide some detailed building elevations and renderings, which have been submitted. I can take you through those a little bit. And Mark Parrish also had an opportunity to review my drawings from a technical standpoint and provided some comments that we've since responded to, and Mark has issued a letter to that effect. The building drawings, basically you've got a 70 by 70 square foot existing structure in the front, and he'd like to construct a 125 by 70 foot warehouse addition off the back with essentially a breezeway connection to the two buildings. As we discussed last time, Mr. Dumond leases some space to a church group here on the north side of the building. They have access both to the front of the building and to the rear of the building. Scrolling down through the various elevations, in the top left corner, that would be the view looking from Route 11 at the site. This would be basically the rear elevation of the building here. This would be the north elevation as you look, say, from Business Ave. And then this would be, excuse me, this is the south elevation looking north. And this would be the elevation looking at the building from Business Ave. It's proposed that there be two truck docks in the rear portion of the building, and by exposing the foundation wall, the grade of the site generally pitches from east to west. So we're transitioning grade from roughly the same building elevation here down to expose this dock at 4 feet at this point. This overhead garage door would be at grade. And as we discussed, there would be an interconnection between the two buildings. Looking at the various perspective renderings, I know colors were part of the questions last time. The colors are indicated here in the lower left corner. It's going to be a dark blue roof color with an ash gray wall color. This is kind of a perspective view looking at the front of the building, say from Route 11. This would be the view, as we discussed. The church patrons would walk along this face of the building to gain access. Excuse me, I got that wrong. This is where the access drive would be on the south side of the building, and this would be the view from the other side of the building where the two loading docks would be. Again, another view from Route 11 there. As part of my response to Mark's comments, just kind of to get to the updated exhibit here. Just a quick overview of the changes since the last plan. Mark had suggested, and I like and appreciate the comment. Originally, we had the sidewalk tucked immediately adjacent to the north wall of the addition, and due to obviously snow cover and icicles and whatnot, it was suggested that we resolve that. So I brought that sidewalk out 6 feet away from the building now, and we wrapped it out and up to the parking area so that the folks attending the church services on Wednesday evenings and Sunday mornings can access easily to the rear door. The front spaces are also available to them to enter from the front door as well. Mark had suggested also that if you recall, we had parking behind the building originally. He had suggested that we eliminate those spaces and kind of ease these turning radii to allow the truck vehicles to circulate the building. That's also reduced the amount of additional impervious surfaces we'll create there. I've also eliminated, we originally had 3 more parking spaces here, but they would effectively be unusable if a truck was in a loading position there. So we've also gained some additional green space by doing that. And Mark had also recommended that we reduce the drive width on the south side of the building to provide for some additional snow storage between these two sites, and we've done that. So you've got, I think it's roughly 5 feet to the property line and 8 feet from edge of pavement to the curb line of the brick and brew. The one comment that was discussed briefly at the last meeting was the potential for cross connection from the brick and brew out to Business Ave, and I've revisited that with my client, and we're opposed to do that, mainly because he's operating his business here, and we don't want to have people coming out of this restaurant and maybe having a few beers and driving through the back of his site in and out. So we're opposed to that cross connection, or at least my client is opposed for obvious reasons. We've also made some minor changes to the drainage. We've, as I discussed, the whole site there's roughly a 15 to 20 acre watershed that drains back across this drainage easement, turns here and enters a culvert here adjacent to Business Ave, and we've essentially extended that culvert to the other side of the driveway. We're going to install a drainage structure at that connection point, and as part of our response to those comments. And lastly, we've done some truck turning analysis to ensure on the right hand side here, these are Mr. Dumond's trucks that he stores on site, straight line trucks, and we're showing how they can easily enter the site, navigate around the rear, and exit comfortably. This shows the truck in its loading position and its ability to exit onto Business Ave. This diagram on the left shows this would be the event of a full-size tractor trailer, which I understand is very infrequent, but this shows how the vehicle can both back in from either direction and or pull out onto Business Ave, which we feel is a huge improvement over the existing condition. On occasion today, if tractor trailers try to deliver to this site, they can't negotiate this entrance into the site. So what's happened in the past is they'll actually stop on the state highway, block traffic while unloading through the front door. So we're trying to resolve that situation with this plan. I think that's generally the extent of the changes in response to comments from our last meeting, as well as from Mr. Parrish. And if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
Thank you, Alex. We'll open up the questions, Mr. Aceto.
No, it looks good. I think he's answered all the questions. Thank you.
Mr. Abbey.
A couple things. Alex, you mentioned that at the present time, deliveries have to come in the front door.
Well, no, excuse me. Let me go back to the, I misstated that. There is if you go to the existing conditions plan, there's the ability for smaller vehicles to come around the back of the building, although you can see it's kind of a jumble of parking spaces and whatnot. There is overhead doors on the back of the existing building where they can deliver here. Tractor trailers, however, Chuck, cannot get into this driveway or back out. So if he ever does get a tractor trailer delivery, presently it's forced to basically stop on Brewerton Road and unload in through the front door.
Sure. And the plans for the dumpster area there, is that to be enclosed?
Yes, sir. Let me scroll up to the. So we're showing the dumpster enclosure now back in the back corner of the property. There's a detail for the enclosure included on this last sheet here.
Yeah, typical 3-sided plus doors in the front.
Three-sided plus swing gate, so that'd be fully enclosed on a concrete pad.
Sure. Another thought is, you mentioned that they have some straight line trucks of their own.
Yes, sir.
You know about how many?
He's got 2, I believe. Ron, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We have 2.
Okay. I'm just curious because trucks being longer than cars, around the back there's diagrammed out for car parking. And just curious if the trucks would be any blockage, from traffic at different times.
I'm sorry, Chuck, was there a question? I missed that.
Oh, I'm just curious where he parks those 2 larger trucks.
Well, I think there's adequate space in this current loading position in one of these flank spaces. This drive aisle is wider than typical because we're trying to make sure we've got room for the infrequent opportunity for the tractor trailers to pull in and out of here. So you have some additional depth to these spaces that's not really illustrated.
And just one last thing, the new building proposal, is it has a second floor or 2-story? With the height of that?
That's my understanding. Ron, you want to elaborate? I'm not sure if the second level is a mezzanine or it's an actual second story, but it's intended to store as dry goods associated with the home improvement business.
That's correct. For storage at the second level. That's correct. Yep.
I assume that with the height of the building.
Correct.
That answers my questions. Thanks, Alex. And appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Chuck. Mr. Snyder.
The only question I've gotten, it's for our engineer. If our engineer is happy with the drainage situation, then I'm okay. But I know we're taking what is a basin right now that water sits in, and we're turning it into parking lots. So I'm just wondering, Mark, do we have the capacity to take care of the water that we're going to create with the building and the additional hard surfaces?
Yes, in my opinion, we do. Alex has taken a look at this, and again, in relation to the overall drainage basin, the increase in the impervious area is, pretty small. Again, as he said, there's probably over 15 acres worth of area that drain here. And I think there's maybe possibly just about a third of an acre of impervious area here. Plus, this is right at the bottom of the watershed. So the way these things kind of work is by the time really the main runoff hits from the overall watershed, the water from this area would really be gone and down through the system.
Okay, so this water goes to somebody else's property?
It goes to you can see on the top of this plan that Alex has up, there's an existing 30-inch diameter culvert.
Right.
Right there. Yeah. So the stormwater currently comes down, and there's a swale along the west side of the site. It comes and would turn along the swale along Business Avenue and get into that culvert and then flow out to the state DOT system. What they're proposing to do is really just move that inlet to the west side of their property. As you can see, they're putting in a new 30-inch culvert.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially you have the same drainage pattern as you currently have.
Okay. The only other issue that I would have the look at is we went through a portion of a problem at our highway garage where we selectively put snow slide protection. Before the building was totally occupied, we had to go back and add it to the whole building. So I would be really worried about the north side of the building if you didn't have snow slides on there, because this is very similar to our highway building. The snow, once it gets going, if it doesn't get stopped at the edge, it will definitely get onto that sidewalk and anybody walking on a sidewalk if there's only 6 feet distance there.
Yeah, Don, I'm not sure I know what a snow slide protection is.
What it is, at least in some buildings, it's literally a device that looks like a leaf that gets screwed in, actually gets clamped to the raised roofing, or as we had, those clamps got put on the raised rib, and then there were rails that were put in. So there's 2 or 3 different methods that they use to stop the snow from sliding off the building.
I think that's a great suggestion. Ron, is that something that you could consider as part of the roof design?
Agree. I think it's actually a really good idea. So I think we could implement that. I don't know too much about them, but as Don said, there's some different options. I think that as long as we achieve that goal of stopping snow from coming down and, all in big chunks, I think that's a great idea. I'm sure we could do that without a problem at all.
Yeah, and you probably, and now that you see it, I guess you might want to put it on the south side of the building too. They're not generally real expensive if you do it when the building is being built.
Okay, got it.
Other than that, it looks great.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Donald. Mr. Bloss?
I'm all set.
I want to talk about that cross connection. Initially I was under the impression that there wasn't a cross connection on the property to the south, but according to Mr. Parrish's reviews, that cross connection does exist.
What's there presently, Mark, is they basically allowed for a future connection. You can see on the plan here, the outline of the, let me zoom in a little bit more. The edge, right, this is all curb parking here, and then they've kind of got an island. This is curb, and then this is just an edge of pavement, and then that wraps back around the west side of the building. Their dumpsters are here, so there is this, a connection could easily be made, but again, envision, if this is your business, would you want people coming in and out through the back of your business after having a few beers? So it's a safety and security concern, frankly. And, the other, I know this goes back a ways. The other concern is if whatever reason, if you started to have an interconnections between all these sites, next thing you know, you're connected to Bear Road, and this becomes a major thoroughfare. So for that reason, my client's opposed to that.
And I understand that, we're charged with good planning. And some time ago, I don't know if Mr. Parrish would remember, there was a study done maybe by Metropolitan Transportation in this area. And they talked about the cross connection and the importance of it. And the objective is to minimize traffic on Route 11 as much as possible, minimize impact potential on Route 11 for people who are just cutting across from one spot to another. When the property to the south went through site plan, we required it with anticipation of someday hopefully being able to connect it. For me, I think that it's good planning for everybody. The cross connections on other parts of Route 11 help this property, and this property's cross connection would potentially help other properties in this neighborhood. So it's all about that traffic on Route 11, right? And the vision has been all along to put these cross connections in where possible. And it was envisioned to have that cross connection there. And I think it's important if I'm a no vote if I don't see a cross connection there. That's how important it is to me.
Mark, I think that's a great idea. And the thing that I think, I'm sure the restaurant and the people having a couple of beers might not even coincide with the operation of the CNY group. And obviously, at that connection where you go across lots, there certainly could be a traffic bump at that point. So we would make sure that people don't go from the Brick and Brew onto the proposed warehouse space at 50 miles an hour. They're going to lose their muffler or something. So I think I would agree with you, and I would also agree that we ought to have a cross connection there. I don't think it'll be as big a problem as the owner thinks.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I don't want somebody drunk driving out on Route 11 or across this property.
And I guess just to, discuss further,
Sure.
The only benefit that cross connection provides is to this owner of the Brick and Brew. There's no other properties that benefit it. There's no cross connection here. And the only thing that does for Brick and Brew is allow, I guess the presumption is someone trying to make a left turn out of the Brick and Brew at this location is going to have an easier time making a left turn at this location. Is that the presumption? Because the stacking that occurs at the signal here rarely extends past this point. There's not a lot of difference in terms of the stacking from here versus this intersection. And it basically becomes a gap consideration. You're trying to get out in the gap between these vehicles, and that gap's going to be the same here as it is here. So that cross connection does, the only thing that cross connection does, because this is going to be one-way traffic, that would allow these people to exit this site after being at a restaurant and bar, exiting through my client's site where he's got his vehicles parked at night. It's behind the building, low security. And that's to allow these patrons to make a left turn here. And I don't know that left turn's any easier here than it is right there.
Well, I know that I used to go to a chiropractor on Business Ave and visited her at different times, and I almost never could make a left-hand turn from Business Ave onto Route 11. You got to wait for the light to change at Circle Drive, and once it's stopped, then you jump out before the people on Circle Drive get out to Route 11.
Yeah, it sounds like we agree, Don. I don't think a left turn at Business Ave is any easier than a left turn at the Brick and Brew.
Well, the left turn coming out of the Brick and Brew is currently prohibited. So you can't make a left turn out of there. It's signed and striped such that you can only make a right turn.
Right in, right out.
So that connection allows you to go north, whereas they currently cannot legally.
Yeah, and actually the stacking, I don't know what it is at 10 o'clock at night, but I know during the day, many times it's from the light by Dunkin' Donuts almost all the way down to Business Ave as far as cars. So I think if they had a way of being able to get to Business Ave and get out, that probably would be a safer situation.
Ron, do you want to join in on this discussion?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's very important to me to make everybody happy, and that's why, like, all of the different provisions that were suggested, I think we tried to do and accommodate everyone. And I want to, in every way possible, obviously, do what you guys want me to do. The only thing is, I already had something stolen off my trailer here 5 months ago, and I think about, and nobody's ever back there, so that'd be somebody that would have to see it from being next door, you know, seeing something there, getting their eyes on it, to be able to get it. And you know, sometimes I may have on a trailer or something there, and just the idea of people coming through there, you know, and the thought of people drinking and such. Typically, if you think about the prime time hours of when, like, Brick and Brew would really need extra access, is going to be more when it's after work, and it's going to be like 6, 7 o'clock at night, and not when traffic does get backed up. And me pulling out of the front of the showroom here now, typically it's you know, you can really only go right there, but traffic only once in a great while it backs up to you know, back to my building. I'd say maybe very prime time, like maybe at, you know, on a Friday afternoon, at like 3 or 4 o'clock. It will be more of a struggle then. But just thinking of, you know, the advantage of pulling out on Business Ave and all the cars coming through there, and, you know, my people being back there and me having to worry about stuff being stolen or anything back there is just such a huge concern to me, and not having, you know, any security and such, for just really just saving them from, you know, having to take a right and then turn around somewhere if traffic were really bad. So I mean, it's just a very difficult thing to allow for me to have all these people coming through. And as I said, I already had something stolen. I don't want to have to worry about that kind of thing, you know. So that's the only reason why I've been very hesitant with it, you know. I want you guys to be happy. I want to do what you guys want me to do, but I kind of digging my feet in the ground a little bit with this, because it's really, I hate to do that. You know, I really would. I'd hate to do that, but those are my thoughts.
What if is there a way we can try this and give it a test?
Generally, if I may, generally, when you're looking for a cross access easement, it is permanent in nature, and it will run with the land, because you're going to want to keep it until such time as there's another site plan that affects it and you want to change it. So what you'll be looking at is our typical cross access easement is permanent in nature. So it kind of trumps use when you talk about, well, the use of this property is this, the use of this property is that. Cross access easement just allows the easement and, you know, vehicle or traffic to go through any property, whether it's a bar or a restaurant or whatever there's next.
One of the theories is that if there's somebody at one of the sites to the south of this, and they want to go to one of the sites that's a little bit north, they don't have to go out on Route 11 and then back in. They can go along the back cross access connection. And right now it's just to the property directly to the south, but our intent would be when we have an opportunity like we do here to get that cross connection at the next site as well. Which brings me to another point, the one way may not work either for a decent cross connection. With that, Mark, I'm going to open it up to you and see what thoughts you might have. Mr. Parrish.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, I think as far as the cross connection goes, I mean, I think everything else you've discussed as far as, you know, the review goes, and, you know, I think we're good with everything. As far as this cross connection goes, again, I do think it provides an opportunity for customers at the Brick and Brew to make a legal left-hand turn by utilizing that. I think the one way, personally, I think is probably sufficient because, again, to me, the benefit is the ability to make a legal left-hand turn from there. You know, I think we've tried for cross connections with the Copper Top property and that type of thing, and that just hasn't happened. So I'm not sure if it'll extend beyond here anytime in the near future, you know, to open it up to, you know, to business or to, excuse me, to Bear Road or anything like that. So I guess that's my opinion on this subject.
All right, thanks, Mark. So I still think it would be important to have, and we'll see what happens with the vote. Does anybody else have any comments on this?
So can I jump in again? This is Ron. So Neil, then what pretty much the way this would work is then I would have to have an easement on my property, and that would be permanent. That's like kind of a big deal too.
That's correct.
You're effectively
That's correct. And
Ron,
that's what happened with your adjoining neighbor's property adjoining you.
Ron, you're effectively devaluing your property, and the Brick and Brewery is increasing value to their property at your cost. I mean, would Brick and Brew be interested in compensating you for an easement? Would Brick and Brew allow you to access your site via their site?
I don't.
Hold on a second.
You're outside the scope of what we're.
Yeah, I'm not interested in this discussion off.
Yeah.
What we're looking to do is improve traffic pattern for the overall location, and that's really all I'm going to get into. Alex, can you pull up the street view for this property, please?
Everyone see that?
No, not yet. We still got the site map on.
Let me this work. I cannot get to that screen for some reason. Still the same.
Chairman, while we're waiting,
Yes.
if I could just go back to something you said earlier about a possible no vote. I just want to point out the possibility that it wouldn't necessarily have to be a no vote because a vote could be conditioned on the actual granting of the easement. So it could be a positive vote with that condition,
Thank you.
depending on how you did the motion.
Mr. Parrish, can you try and get the street view from Google?
Alex, you might have to
Yeah, I
unshare
can
your
do it.
screen and reshare it.
Yeah, I'm trying. I can't get back to the. Cannot get back to the. There we go. Share screen. Oh, here we go. You see that?
There it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey,
Beautiful. Thank you.
so this isn't quite up to date, but it's pretty similar.
Yeah, and what I wanted to look at here was, and you're right, it's not up to date. There's a little bit of landscaping on the site that's not shown on here.
That's true.
But whatever's there is, I don't know if it's seasonal or if it's dead. And when you take a look at the properties that are adjacent to this, the landscaping that has been done is very nice. So I would like to see something done a little bit different than, and I'm not sure, Alex, you know, you show that the existing plots of landscaping are going to stay. I'm not sure if they were put in as approved. I don't know if the property owner knows what's going on with that, but I would like to see that dressed up some.
Some additional landscaping in the front you're asking for?
Yeah, and like I said, if you look south a little bit, you can kind of see what the other sites have done.
Sure. Yeah, and like I said, this image doesn't show, there is presently some landscaping in this corner and over in this corner, but
Yeah, very little, but it's like the stuff's dead or seasonal.
sure. Ron, that I assume that's not problematic. We dress up the landscaping in front.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. We could definitely dress that up some. We did have some, and then it got damaged with the plow over the winter. So, but we did have some at the entrance there too, as you pull in off to the left there. Just past the telephone pole, kind of on that curve there, we had some landscaping there. So, and we actually would like to add some and plan to do some here in the spring. And I'm sorry, the connection's really bad on my end. I don't know if you guys can hear me okay, but everything's cracking up pretty bad. So,
hear you great. Terrific.
Yeah, Ron, I hear you great.
Alex, can you zoom to the south a little bit, just to get a look at landscaping that's been done on the other properties?
More similar to this here.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of thing I think would look nice along this corridor.
Sure, and the only thing I got to be careful of, Mark, is where the state right-of-way line is, and we just have to keep outside of that. With the
I understand, yeah, and you don't have as much space. I get that, but I think it can be dressed up some.
But yeah, we can dress that up, and like I said, this doesn't show what it looks like even presently.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Maurizio.
I'm okay.
Mr. Procopio.
I don't have anything additional. I was just going to see if John Barrett from the Cicero Fire Department was still here to see if he had any comments, but I don't think he's on this call anymore.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Parrish?
No, I'm good. You've touched on everything I think that needs to be discussed for this. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Jermaine.
All set.
Okay, so Neil, relative to the landscaping, is that something we can do conditioned on maybe Mark's approval, or how can we handle that if we move forward tonight?
I mean, I guess you might be able to describe it along the lines of landscaping will be added to the front of the site to improve the overall appearance and make it consistent with the adjoining property.
Are you comfortable with that, or should we wait?
It's totally up to you. I mean, because that doesn't give you much to enforce. You can wait and for the applicant to provide a more detailed landscaping plan. I mean, you just, no matter what I come up with, it was going to be very subjective because you don't have anything concrete to look at. There's no plan to say you're going to put the tree, landscaping here of this nature and this type. So it depends on your feeling about it as far as, are you comfortable that the applicant's going to be able to put appropriate landscaping there, or you want to see it on a plan so you know what you're actually getting? Otherwise, it's buyer beware.
Yeah, we always want to see it. Alex, would you be all right with coming back in 2 weeks?
I guess if that's our only option, I guess, Mark, if you trust me, I mean, we can fill, I think we'd like to keep this area open for snow storage and removal, but I think we can fill from really the back edge of the sidewalk to the to the pavement line with a landscape bed and do something more similar to what I've done to dress up the new entrance back here. If you trust my taste.
I absolutely trust you. My only concern is what we've done in the past and what we're going to do in the future. We're going to want to, we always require that we see it on the plan specific. So if we modify from that this time, I don't like the precedent that it's second. But I absolutely trust you.
Appreciate that. Ron, what's your timeline? Is 2 more weeks gonna kill you?
Is there any way we can duplicate something that we have on the plan already and show it to, in the notes here to do right in the front of the building? Know that I don't have nearly as much landscape there as these adjacent places to me, just so that you know, because we have our parking lot comes out further there. But I'm happy to fill it all up with landscaping there and any types of shrubs or trees or anything that you want. I would hate for the project to be held up for a couple of weeks to do the site work based on that. Again, I want everybody to be pleased. I'm glad to do anything that you ask for in regards to landscaping. If we state it now, what specifically you want, or certain trees or shrubs or anything there, I'm happy to do it. That to me is very simple. That's easy. And I'd like to dress it up anyway. So, and now's the time of year to do it. So,
Could we make it conditioned on my review? Sure.
I suppose review and approval by the planning board chairman. Are we going to make this thing? Is there an overall feeling that it's going to be conditioned on an easement anyways?
I'm going to have you make that motion, yes.
Okay. So do you want maybe you want to actually see that on the plan if you're going to, you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone and see it on the plan. Otherwise, you're relying on Mark and I to say where that easement is and all that. I can do it.
We're going to have to wait 2 weeks anyways, then. Right? For that easement.
You can suggest it that they put it on the plan. They can say yes or they can say no. If they say no, when you come back, you can vote it and say it's contingent on giving us the cross-access easement, and you're not going to get no building permits like we normally do until it's granted.
Ron, do you understand the choice before you?
Yeah, so is it pretty much the position that everybody feels that we need to do an easement here? That I need to put an easement on my property? Because that definitely affects the value of it, I think, for sure. And could there be some sort of tax credit for future, like say, a certain period number of years and, maybe not getting
I don't mean to jump in and interrupt you, but the answer to that is pretty much no. When we evaluate a site plan, we often, as a matter of fact, it's the policy of this board to ask for interconnection and cross-access easements. To not take it here would be an exception to that policy. Your speculation as to what it does to the value of your property doesn't affect the planning board's needs to determine how the site is going to work and to try to make an overall good plan for the town.
Sure, and I understand. What if, so going back to, what if we did do an opening there and we tried it out and saw how it went?
I'm sorry, but there's no try out with it with a permanent easement. The purpose of the easement is to allow access from property to property. That's what the planning board has insisted on numerous occasions, to allow for interconnection. And there's really no trial period for it where we reevaluate it.
So is it the position of the board that if I don't do this, that I'm not going to get approved then? I can't do my bill?
I can't speculate as to what the board would vote on. I can't speculate that's what any way that the board would vote. I can tell you that in the past, if you looked at the past, what the planning board has done in the past is it has insisted on interconnection. that doesn't mean they would vote no, but it might mean that they vote yes to the site plan, but as a condition, you have to provide interconnection.
Mhm. Sure.
I mean, I can't speculate. I can only look to the past and say, this is what was commonly done. Chairman, if I'm misstating your position, let me know.
No, you're 100%. So, Neil, can we take a poll from the board on that cross connection?
Sure, you can ask, you can just take a, a quick straw poll, how everybody feels about it.
Mr. Rosito, would you support?
Well, I have a comment.
Yeah.
I know what we've done in the past, and I'd like to be consistent. I can see Ron's position. I wish I'm looking at this thing, trying to figure if there was a way you could go around the front of the building. I understand his position with, people at night stealing things, whatever. But we always do insist on cross easements. We put up a barrier there. I mean, a big speed bump, it would maybe deter. I mean, not everyone's going to even really know it's there. Not going to have a big sign. But we pretty much have to be consistent with what we do. Otherwise, it opens up to problems down the road. But I do understand your concern, and it may or may not devalue your property. It might be an asset for the next person down the road. I can't say that, but I do understand your position. But we have one to maintain also.
Mr. Abbey, would you want to see a cross connection there?
Yeah, I would support that.
Mr. Snyder, you've already spoken.
I support the cross connection.
Mr. Bloss?
I would like to see a cross connection, yes.
So there you have it. You have a unanimous board wanting that cross connection. So
Ron, if you ask for a vote without that, it sounds like you're going to get denied. If they're willing to give you a conditional approval condition upon that easement, maybe we could avoid, the 2-week delay in coming back, or we don't ask for any action tonight and give you some time to think about it or talk to your attorney or whatever you'd like to do.
Guys, are we willing to, subject to me doing the easement, allowing for that pass through, to do a vote to approve this subject to that and the landscaping thing that we discussed? So at least then I know I can move forward as long as I do those two things.
Ron, I'm going to say yes to that. My gut says no. My gut also says that warehouse is maybe a little bit too big for the site. We should have two-way traffic back there. But I'm giving in as well. But I don't want to hold you up. You've been very cooperative here, and I'm willing to work with the attorney to put a motion in place, conditioned on the cross connection and conditioned on the landscaping being improved. So I'm willing to.
That would be.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
So can we also, if the board decides to go that way, also make part of that condition that this plan gets amended and updated to show that connection for construction?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So I'm still nervous about approving this without it all being shown on the plan, Neil, but I will leave it to you to come up with some language that you're comfortable with, assuming you recommend that, so we can move forward.
Just
Okay.
1 second.
Meanwhile, we'll do a seeker. Mr. Rosito, would you propose a standard seeker?
Thank you.
Yes, I propose our standard seeker, and that's a form of motion.
We have a second?
Second, Snyder.
Second by Mr. Snyder. Mr. Rosito?
Yes.
Mr. Abbey?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Boss?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Seeker passes.
Okay.
Neil, when you're ready, would you please present the motion as discussed?
Yep, you're gonna move for the adoption of a resolution approving the application known as CNY Home Improvements, Inc., 7793 Brewerton Road, proposed 8894 square foot warehouse addition. This approval is strictly conditioned on the following: one, the color schemes and renderings and or elevations presented by the applicant to the planning board in regard to this application shall be incorporated by reference into this site plan and the board's approval thereof. Accordingly, the actual project must substantially conform to the items as presented herein. Two, the applicant will install snow slides on the roof or an alternate method of preventing snowfall off the roof. Three, the applicant shall provide an acceptable easement to allow interconnection and vehicular access from the site through the Brick and Brew site to Business Avenue. This easement shall be presented to the planning board's attorney for review and approval before recording with the county clerk's office. No permits of any kind shall be issued before this easement is recorded. Four, the plan will be updated to show the proposed easement in a manner acceptable to the codes enforcement office. Five, landscaping will add it to the front of the site to improve the overall appearance and make it consistent with the adjoining properties. Before adding the landscaping, the applicant will present a depiction of the proposed landscaping to the chairman for approval.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that not only are they going to be given that cross connection easement, but it'll be constructed as well. It'll be
Correct.
going across.
Quick question, guys. We can obviously extend the pavement to my client's property line, but the neighbor's pavement doesn't extend to that same property line. So I assume there's got to be communication either between the two owners whereby they get the permission to extend the asphalt onto the Brick and Brew, or are you content with my client providing the access easement and extending asphalt to the property line, and the Brick and Brew can make the connection?
Neil, I think because there's an easement, they can put the connection right through.
Yeah, I think that easement stubs to the Brick and Brew, so you have the ability to connect with them. You're gonna have to, coordinate that with whatever the business is next to you. To coordinate that, you're gonna have to look at their easement, the existing easement, and to see where it ends and how you're gonna stub it in.
So Neil, you think there's presently an easement across the back of Brick and Brew? That
I believe so.
There is, according to Mr. Parrish.
Yeah.
No, I don't know that there's an easement. What I do know is
There's an interconnect.
That the design of the layout for the site allows for that connection physically. Yeah. If you look at the current layout, or current striping, there actually are 3 parking spots in that location where that little bump out shown on Alex's plan there. If you go to Google Earth, you'll see that there's actually 3 parking spaces there. So it may be, and I don't know if this will have a difference in the board's decision as to the provision of the easement, but it might be a good idea to contact the owner of the Brick and Brew, and discuss this with them and make sure that they are desirous of this interconnection.
I can do that. I can talk with them.
Yeah, I like to say, because it's physically set up to do it, but again, I think the parking on that site I think is pretty tight. So right now they're utilizing that for 3 parking spaces. Alex, can you go to the aerial again there? Yeah, not to throw another wrinkle into this, but it probably would be a good idea to contact them and make sure that they're go to the aerial view.
So Mark, you don't know if a cross connection easement was?
Well, no, again, they wouldn't need an easement because unless we want to allow the CNY home improvement property to access onto the Brick and Brew property. And I'm not sure that makes much sense, but
Right, because they're first in the line.
Yeah. So I think you just need to go to the aerial view, Alex. There you go.
I have a question. So if there isn't a cross connection right now or an easement, and we're requiring him to comply, if the Brick and Brew doesn't want to, then what happens?
And we acquire the easement now, and when Brick and Brew ever comes back in front of the town, if ever, we would require it then. But the connection would not be made. Until that happens.
I believe this was addressed with the Tim Hortons site plan. I'd have to go back in the records.
I thought it
But
was.
I thought there was some
I thought we had some
efforts taken by Tim Hortons at the time to create that cross access. And they pledged to work with the owner of the previous owner of where CNY is now. They just weren't able to negotiate
I think that's correct.
access. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can see there's 3 parking spaces in there right now that's currently occupying that area. But you can also see it's striped out and there's curbing there, you know, that would provide for that connection physically.
And similarly, it looks like there's, you know, you could easily make a cross connection at this point too.
Yeah. So the site was laid out for that. I really don't recall whether or not they seeded an easement across there. That I do not remember.
Yeah, my best guess is that we did, but I don't know for certain. So, you know, where does that leave us with the motion?
You still have the motion in place that he has to provide a cross access easement approvable by the planning board attorney. And I guess they're gonna have to show it on the map and the site plan.
And if that cross connection easement does exist at the property on the south of this, that they would construct the pathway through.
Constructed accordingly, yeah.
Okay. And I will make that in the form of a motion. Do you have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bloss, Mr. Rosito. You're on mute, Joe. That's my guess. Mr. Rosito.
His picture's gone.
Is he? Mr. Abbey.
Yes.
Mr. Snyder.
Yes.
Mr. Bloss.
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion passes.
You wanna pull Mr. Maurizio?
Mr. Murzio, you're going to vote as ad hoc in the absence of Mr. Rosito. Your vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Mike. All right, so we're all set. Alex, thank you.
Yep, Mark, I'll make those adjustments and I'll email you a PDF to take a peek at before I finalize and send out hard copies.
Perfect.
Thanks, everyone.
Is your client still here? I don't see him.
Ronnie, you still there?
Okay, yeah, I am. I'm sorry. It's just such a bad connection. Thank you, guys.
Ron, thank you for everything. Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody.
The next and last item on our agenda is the Bluffs at Oneida Shores. This is for proposed private recreational use of tennis court and a basketball court. The applicant representatives are here.
This is Terry Horst from Terry Horst Landscape Architecture. I'm here.
Hi, Terry.
Jamie Sutphin and counsel for the Bluffs at Oneida Shores.
Welcome. You want to put up your plan and go over any modifications that you made?
Yep. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so after the last meeting, we received comments from Mark Parrish. And so we updated our plans accordingly. He asked for a zoning chart and the variances to be written on the plan. So those have been noted, as well as notes on lighting and signage. So we added notes saying that we're not adding lighting or signage, and as well as for the hours of the facility. He also asked for the grades to be shown. So we prepared a planting plan and a grading plan. That was the grading plan, okay. So we added a planting plan with plant list, and then finally a grading plan showing the grades for the proposed facilities and the fence detail. I think we noted originally that it was 12 feet, but it really is a 10-foot high fence. That's a standard tennis court fence.
Thank you. We'll open up questions. Mr. Rosito, are you back yet? Mr. Abbey?
Question on the signage. Where is it and what is it?
We are not proposing signage.
Oh, okay. I didn't do that. Thank you.
Yeah, we're noting that we're not proposing signage. That was what Mark asked to have that written on the plan.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Mr. Snyder?
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm just think we're going to have a problem with no signage. There's going to be some shouting matches between the children that use this and the adults that control it. So, but that's not my problem. So let's go.
Mr. Bloss?
No further questions.
Mr. Marizio?
No questions. And Joe's back.
My Wi-Fi went down. I did vote yes.
Joe, any questions on this?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Mr. Procopio?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Mr. Parrish?
No comments here. Just Terry, I think you do have one note on the bottom of the tennis court. It still says 12-foot high fence there if you zoom in.
Is it on this plan, Mark, on the first sheet?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
But the other one on top says 10-foot high and the details 10-foot high, so
yeah,
just might want to reaffirm in the approval that it's a 10-foot high fence.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Jermaine?
No, all set.
Joe, would you propose the standard seeker, please?
Yes, I propose our standard seeker, and that's the form of motion.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Snyder. Mr. Rosito?
Yes.
Mr. Abbey?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Bloss?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Seeker passes. Neil, would you propose a motion for approval?
Yes, you're going to move for the adoption of resolution approving the application known as the Bluffs at Oneida Shores LLC, 9475 Bluff Circle, proposed private recreational use tennis court and basketball. This is strictly a condition on the following: one, the color schemes, renderings, and/or elevations as presented by the applicant to the planning board in regard to this application shall be incorporated by reference into the site plan and the board's approval thereof. Accordingly, the actual project must substantially conform to the items as presented herein. Two, the fence will be 10-foot high. The note for the 12-foot on the plan is hereby amended accordingly.
Would somebody like to make that in form of a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Abbey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rosito. Mr. Rosito?
Yes.
Mr. Abbey?
Yes.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Bloss?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Site plan is approved. Good luck with it.
thank you.
Have fun. That concludes our agenda items. Anybody have any discussion they would like to chat about?
Mark, did the board approve the change for extending site plans?
The town board?
Yeah, did they approve that change?
Nancy shaking her head. Yes, Nancy?
Yes, we did.
Okay, because I'm thinking, isn't Myers RV going to come look for an extension pretty quick? Because it's got to be almost a year or more than a year since they put in for their site plan.
You're asking Nancy?
You know, Steve, whether,
Yeah, that has expired. And I believe, if I remember correctly, they may have asked for an extension that was denied. I don't recall, but it's expired. They need a new site plan approval if I'm not mistaken.
did we say no on extension, Mark?
That site plan approval was from probably 2019 or earlier. I have to go back down and check the records.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it expired.
That's all I've got for now.
Anybody else?
No,
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
thanks, Mark.
Good
Thank
job,
you.
Mark.